There are times where we shock ourselves by doing things that we imagine we would never do. We lose ourselves and we quite don't know why. There are times where we have the best of intentions, but our actions don't work out as planned. But we don't reflect on many of these things. We think it's a bad day, we think, it was probably a bad mood that happened, and we just go on. What if we did reflect? What we would find would be very interesting. When we contemplate on what made us do what we did, we arrive at unexpected results. It may have just been that moment of irritability while you're traveling back home that led to a temper burst. Sometimes even physical discomfort manifests as irritability. If we closely observe our actions, we realize that the quality of action depends on our inner state at that moment. The same action done in a moment of frustration and done in a moment of clarity are leagues apart. One inevitably tends to be a mess, whereas the other is done well. When we clearly realize that our inner state affects our action, we realize that what flows outward depends on what is within. The Indian tradition recognizes two ways of being: Pravritti, looking outward, and Nivritti, looking within. On the surface, looking outward and looking within seem contradictory, but they complement each other. Every action begins with a thought. The effectiveness of our action depends upon the depth, the clarity, and the profundity of our thought, and the inner orientation when we act. Traditionally, this is explained using the metaphor of a bow and an arrow. The closer to yourself you draw the string, the further the arrow travels. Similarly, the more we look within, the deeper we contemplate, the more effective our action is. Therefore, introspection and setting the appropriate inner context is vital in ensuring effective action. Funny as it may sound, things do begin from sitting idly. The Indian traditions advocate for an optimal balance between Pravritti and Nivritti depending on the context and the action. Action begins in Nivritti by contemplating upon the reason and the purpose for acting and the best way to ensure effective action. After this, the inner context is set in such a way that it is conducive for you to act effectively. This naturally flows into action or Pravritti. While acting, it is important to pause, detach yourself, and observe if you're doing the right thing and if your inner attitude is set appropriately. This minute of contemplation can help us do a quick course correction. Being mindful in that moment takes a lot of practice, but it is worth aspiring for. The Indian tradition offers us yogic tools to dynamically switch between Pravritti and Nivritti. Over time, we will be able to hold both Pravritti and Nivritti at the same time, being fully aware of our inner context and dynamically engaging in action outside. And this leads to deep, meaningful, and socially beneficial action. Thank you.